Hey boys, it's Harmnan. Today we're going to be going over the fastest vehicles in each class in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now how these vehicles are getting ranked on here is based off of lap times, not top speed. So if you're looking for top speed, unfortunately this is not going to be the video for you. However, the cars on this list are going to be the fastest cars in their respective category in Grand Theft Auto Online. So when you take them into an actual race in GTA, as long as you pick one of these cars, you will probably do at least pretty well in whatever race you are doing. Anyway guys, let's get right into it, starting off with utility vehicles. Alright guys, so the fastest utility vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online is the Vapid Saddler, believe it or not. Now the Vapid Saddler, don't get me wrong, it is a pretty slow vehicle. I love this truck, I think it's great, and it is the #1 vehicle in the utilities category. So if you guys want to win utility vehicle races, I would definitely recommend picking up a Vapid Saddler. However, the only thing is with utility races, I don't know how often you'll actually be doing them. If you do want to win them whenever you do play them, show up with a Vapid Saddler that's fully upgraded and you have a very good chance of winning, because this thing is by far the fastest vehicle in the utility vehicles category. Anyway guys, that's it for utility. Let's move on to vans. Alright guys, for the vans category we have the Rempo Custom. Now this thing is actually by far the fastest van in the game. It actually shreds. It's actually a pretty quick vehicle, I won't lie. Definitely not the fastest, but for what it is, it's surprisingly good. This thing has really high suspension on it by default. However, you can of course tone it down a tiny bit within Los Santos Customs, which will definitely make it handle a little bit better. Now again, with the vans category, I don't know how often you're actually going to be using them, but if you do want to win, make sure you have a Vapid Rempo Custom. Alright guys, next up for the coupes category, we have the Karin Previon, and this thing is the best coupe in the entire game by a long shot. This thing will absolutely blow every other coupe in the game out of the water. It is so much faster, and also it is pretty much the coolest coupe that there is in the entire game. This thing has a ton of customization options. It was added with the Tuners DLC, so that, you know, kind of checks out, kind of makes sense. The Previon is definitely a car that I would recommend owning, because I have personally taken this thing into the coupes category and I have absolutely dominated. I was actually doing so good that there's a video on my channel where I lap a couple of people, I think twice maybe in one race, and the race was only like 3 laps. Now the players I was playing against were probably not the best racers, I must admit. However, that is just how good the Karin Previon is in the coupes category. You can absolutely destroy people and it's not even fair. Anyway guys, that's it for coupes. Let's move on to sedans. Alright guys, and for the sedans category we have the Shafter V12. Now technically the Shafter V12 is a sports car in Grand Theft Auto Online, however it also doubles as a sedan, so you can use this thing in sedans races, which is going to be your best bet. Now the Obey Tailgater S that was added with the Tuners DLC was actually very closely second to the Shafter V12 in this category. However, all of the Tuners DLC vehicles have since been nerfed, so I'm honestly not sure where the Tailgater S stands, but I would assume, since it's a nerf, it is probably still behind the Shafter V12 just by a larger margin. However, you probably could still use the Tailgater S on certain tracks where handling is more of an issue. The Shafter V12 is really good in a straight line. It has an insane top speed. However, the handling on the Shafter V12 is not exactly the best, but it is still a very good car, and I would highly recommend picking it up, even if you're not going to be racing. Anyway guys, that is it for the sedans category. Alright guys, next up for the compacts category, we have the BF Club. Now the BF Club is actually a very quick vehicle in this game. It is front wheel drive only, which is a bit unfortunate. However, it is a very quick car. It's also a very small car, hence it being in the compacts category, makes sense. But the BF Club handles way better than any other car within the compacts category, and it is also way faster. The acceleration on this thing is actually pretty impressive as far as anything goes. It is a very good car generally, like there's nothing really wrong with this thing. I would definitely recommend picking up a club, especially if you're planning on doing some compact races or stunt races, because there are compact races within the stunt race category. So if you want to win those, you are going to need a BF Club. Anyway guys, that's it for the BF Club and the compacts category. Alright guys, and next up for the SUVs category, we have the Pegassi Toros. The Toros is insanely fast. This thing can give some sports cars a run for their money. It is so quick. bike. It's a great vehicle. I would highly recommend picking up the Tauros. It is just fantastic. Now, an honorable mention here is the Rebla GTS, as well as the Pfister Astron that just came out with the Contract DLC. Both of those cars are also quite competitive within the SUVs category. However, the Tauros still is the best SUV in the game. Definitely, if you are planning on doing some SUV races, you are going to want a Pegassi Tauros because it is going to give you the best chance of victory within that category. The Tauros is also just, well, I mean, it's a sick car. I'm personally kind of a fan of the Lamborghini Urus in real life, so I kind of like the Tauros in GTA. It's a very good car, regardless of if you're going to use it for racing. I would highly recommend picking up a Tauros. Anyway guys, that's it for the SUVs, let's move on. Alright guys, and for the sports classic category, we have the Grotti Turismo Classic. This thing is the best sports classic car in the game by not exactly a long shot, but it is definitely the best one. An honorable mention is the Cheetah Classic, which is also a very, very cool car. However, the Turismo is just a little bit better. The Turismo Classic is going to be the car that is going to win you pretty much every single sports classic race in Grand Theft Auto Online. If you go up against somebody who doesn't have this or the Cheetah Classic, you are almost guaranteed a win because it is about half of a second faster per lap than the Cheetah Classic. Now, depending on the track, this thing may be better or the Cheetah Classic may be better. However, 9 times out of 10, I would recommend the Turismo Classic, and also it's based off of a Ferrari F40, which, I mean, that's just sick. So definitely pick up a Turismo Classic if you want to win some sports classic races. Anyway guys, on to the next one. Alright guys, next up for the off-roads category, we have the BF400. Now, the BF400 is by far the best off-road vehicle in the game. Technically, it is a motorcycle, but it is subclassed as a off-road vehicle because obviously it is a dirt bike. Now, the BF400 is insanely fast. You will destroy anybody in an off-road race when this thing is enabled. However, there are some off-road races in Grand Theft Auto Online where you are not actually allowed to use motorcycles. So, the BF400 is by far the best off-roader in the game when you are allowed to use it. However, when you are not allowed to use it, there is a different best vehicle for the off-road category. And that off-road vehicle in question is of course the Maxwell Vagrant. Now, the Vagrant is a crazy good off-roader. It is the second best off-roader in the game to the BF400, shortly followed by the Sanchez, and then after that, the Canis Camacho. Now, in certain instances, I would rather take the Camacho over the Vagrant because the Camacho is a much bigger vehicle, and the Vagrant is a pretty small vehicle, which means that, well, okay. This thing can get thrown around a lot is what I'm saying. So in races that are going to be a little bit tighter, a little bit more technical, the Vagrant is probably going to excel in those. However, on longer races where the track is a little bit more wide open, I would actually prefer to take the Canis Camacho over this thing because you will inevitably come up against some Vagrants in an off-road race. And if you're in the Camacho and you have the opportunity and you want to play dirty, that's a key part here. If you want to play dirty, you can ram them with the Camacho and you will win every single time, because like I said, the Vagrant, as you guys can, okay, yeah, it's really light. You can throw it around a lot. The Camacho's, you know, not so light. Don't get thrown around as much in that thing. Anyway, guys, that's it for the off-road category. Let's move on to the next one. All right, guys. Now, technically, there is a subclass in the game, which is the Tuners Vehicles subclass. Now, obviously, you can only use cars from the Tuners DLC within Tuners races out of the LS car meet. And out of those cars, the best one is the Sultan RS Classic, which is what I am driving right here. Either that or the Emperor Vector. Now, the Emperor Vector is only slightly slower than this thing. However, I decided, obviously, I'm going to show you guys the fastest car because this is the list for the fastest cars in each category. So, the Sultan RS Classic is the best Tuners subclass vehicle. This thing is actually quite quick. Now, it's not going to be a very fast car within the actual sports car category. It is actually going to place pretty high within the sports car category, which is where this thing actually resides. But within the Tuners subcategory, the Sultan RS Classic is one of the better cars. I personally am not a huge fan of the Sultan RS Classic. However, it is still a pretty cool car, and I think that you should probably pick one up if you plan on doing the Tuners races in Grand Theft Auto Online. Alright guys, next up for the sports car category, we have the Italy GTO. Now, the Italy GTO is actually a absolutely goated car for circuit racing in Grand Theft Auto Online in the sports category. This thing absolutely destroys because it has a really interesting suspension setup on it, which allows it to soak up bumps and actually gain speed from that, which is kind of crazy. It sounds really counterintuitive, but that is just how this car works. So when you're actually racing with this thing, you are going to want to be curb boosting as much as possible. If you don't know what what curb boosting is, well, let me know in the comments down below. I'll make a video on it and I will explain it all to you guys. Or if you just want a racing guide, let me know in the comments down below. I can do that too. Now, the Italia GTO is technically the fastest sports car in the game. However, it does not have the best top speed in the game. That car is actually the Ocelot Pariah, which is also within the sports car category. I believe it is actually the fastest car in the entire game that's not a rocket boosted car. If it's not the fastest, it's probably within the top 3, I want to say. It's been a while since I've checked, but the Ocelot Pariah will actually be better off than the Italia GTO on tracks that have super long straightaways. However, it is rear wheel drive only, and this thing is 4-wheel drive. So if the race has any sort of dirt on it, the Italia GTO will do much better. So guys, if you want to win sports car races, I would definitely recommend picking up the Italia GTO. Any other sports car is just not worth using, and I know there's probably going to be some people commenting on this video about how the Italia RSX and the Ocelot Pariah are actually better than the GTO. They are not. I promise you, if you are a half decent driver, the Italia GTO will blow those cars out of the water every single time. Unless, like I said, it is a track that relies heavily on top speed, then the Pariah just might gain enough of an edge to beat the GTO. Anyway guys, onto the supercars category. Alright guys, so the fastest supercar in the game is the Progen Emirus. Now, there is a runner-up for this position, which is the Benefactor Krieger. Both of these cars are extremely good in their own right. The Emirus is rear-wheel drive only, so it does struggle with traction off of the line. The Krieger is 4-wheel drive, so it does not really struggle with traction off of the line. Now, the Emirus is a very good car. It has pretty good downforce. Overall, it's a very grippy car, and it is pretty darn quick. So if you guys are playing races that have overall, I would say, more top speed related stuff, if they have a few less corners, I would definitely recommend picking up the Emirus for those races. However, if the race you are doing does have a lot of corners, the Benefactor Krieger is going to be ever so slightly better for those types of races, I do believe. I'm personally a little bit biased because I like the Krieger better than the Emirus. However, I do still have an Emirus, obviously, so either car is really good, but I personally prefer the Krieger over the Emirus. If you guys have the money, and if you're that invested in racing, I would recommend testing out both cars and figuring out which one you like better. Anyway guys, that is it for the supercars category. Let's move on to the final category, which is the open wheel cars. Alright guys, and out of the open wheel category cars, the Benefactor BR8 is going to be your best bet. Now, open wheel racing is not super popular within Grand Theft Auto Online, at least not that I know of. When it first came out, it was super poppin', everybody really liked it. However, as time has gone on, I do think the open wheel has died out a little bit, and these cars are very expensive, but they are expensive for good reason. These are the literal best handling cars in the entire game. As you guys can see by me driving this thing right now, it pretty much sticks to the road. It will not let go of the road almost no matter what you do. See, if I even take this thing off-road, it's not going to jump around at all. It is basically going to stay glued to the road. And as you guys can see, well, as you guys could see, I was absolutely stuck to the road and cornering extremely well. These cars are crazy good when it comes to handling. However, this one is damaged now, so the handling is a little bit less than it probably would have been had I not crashed into that one car there. But regardless, the open wheel cars are crazy in this game, and the Benefactor BR8 is the best out of all of them, beating most of them by 4 seconds or more, which is insane to think about. The BR8 is just insanely fast. It is such a good car. You guys should definitely pick this thing up if you plan on doing open wheel racing. It is the best car for it. And the upgrades for these vehicles are also really unique. Each individual upgrade for the front, for the spoiler, for all the fins, everything that you can put on these cars actually does something to affect the handling quite majorly. So they're definitely a very cool class of vehicle, and just very cool vehicles in general. I would definitely recommend checking them out for yourself if you have some extra money lying around. Anyway guys, that has been it for the best vehicles for each category of racing in Grand Theft Auto Online. Like I said earlier, if you guys want a full guide on actual racing in Grand Theft Auto Online, let me know in the comments down below. I would not be opposed to doing that. I enjoy racing in Grand Theft Auto quite a bit actually, so if you guys did want to see something like that, let me know in the comments down below. Anyway guys, if this video helped you out, if you learned something, leave a like, if not dislike, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.